Hello, my name's Alex and welcome to another DBN Napoleonic Wargaming video. Again, due to coronavirus, I'll be playing another solitaire game and I'll be doing it again in slow time as a rules coaching session. Today I've decided to choose an historical battle, a famous battle, and it's the Battle of Quatre Bras, which was fought on the 16th of June 1815, 2 days before the Battle of Waterloo. This scenario is from the DBN scenario package, and it is available as a download from the website. And I've chosen this scenario because it's a small battle. In DBN battle terms, it is small because it involves only a corps on each side, approximately a corps plus on each side. So it's a fairly easy battle to play, but it's a really interesting scenario. It's a meeting engagement with reinforcements coming on both sides. So let's first of all have a look at the battlefield itself. Okay, here we have the battlefield of Quatre Bras, played on a 3 foot by 3 foot or 90 by 90 centimetre board. I'll just give you a quick walk around the battlefield. You're looking from the south to the north with Quatre Bras as the village in the distance. Just walking around the battlefield, and the forest on the western side. Now obviously the area in the middle is the cornfields. The cornfields were a significant feature in the battle, if you know your history. Their exact makeup and locations are slightly vague, but this is to my best research and how I best decided to depict them. And I'll explain the detail of the battlefield. The village is a non-linear fortification. It's a fairly small village. We have 3 strong points: Chemincourt, Pierpont and Piedmont. These are strong points and been garrisoned by detachments as per the rule book. The wood's bad going. The 2 unique features on this, there's a lake or large pond and stream, which is classed as bad going. The actual stream had fairly high banks. It was a small narrow stream but with significant banks on either side, so classed it as bad going. The cornfield restricts artillery fire to a maximum of 600 paces and musket fire to 100 paces, and everything moving through bad going, the speed of the units is reduced. So it has a small impact on the ballistics of ammunition and reduced visibility through the cornfield. Not a significant impact, but it will benefit cavalry and penalise musket infantry. You can see the strong points there. The other significant feature is the Sunken Lane. As you can see, to the east of Quatre Bras village there is a sunken lane following the main road. This is classed as bad going if you're crossing it, and if you're inside it, it will give you cover. However, you're classed as being in bad going. So it's something of a mixed blessing, but would make a good defensive position if deployed behind it and using it as protection. So there you have the battlefield for Quatre Bras. Okay, here we see the initial Allied defenders displayed in parade order. This is Perponcher's division with Prince of Orange in command, and these are the initial deployed Allied units. So from right to left as you're looking at it, we have a unit of horse artillery, Dutch Belgian horse artillery. Then we have a combined light infantry of Dutch Belgium and Nassau. We have a militia musket Dutch Belgian. We have a musket, line musket Nassau, and we have 2 strong point detachments with Prince of Orange to the rear. That's the initial deployment for the Allies. Okay, here's the Allies reinforcements. As you know, they'll arrive during the day. Going from right to left, at the back and at the right is Wellington, and in front of him is the Dutch Belgium Cavalry Brigade under von Merlin. They will arrive on turn 3. On turn 5, to the left of the cavalry is Picton's division. That arrives on turn 5, the same turn as the Duke of Wellington will arrive on the battlefield. And Picton's division consists of, from front to back, a Jaeger, it's the 95th Rifles, followed by 2 brigades of British musket infantry. Behind that is a brigade of Nassau, a brigade of Hanoverian muskets, and a unit of foot artillery behind that. They arrive on turn 5. Next along in the centre there is Duke of Brunswick with his corps, which is in fact a division. Duke of Brunswick is a divisional sub-commander. Behind him is a combined light infantry unit. This is the advance guard and the Lieb battalion. They formed a light infantry unit. Behind them are 2 units of musket militia class infantry, and one of them was technically a light infantry brigade, but they were just classed as line muskets militia class. Behind them is the Dutch Belgian cavalry, light cavalry, and at the back there is a unit of artillery, and that's the Brunswick horse artillery. And the Brunswickers arrive on turn 7. On the left side there is von Alten's division, 3rd British division, and that arrives on turn 11. And that consists of light infantry, Hanoverian light infantry, then a unit of regular line musket Hanoverians, and then a brigade of British muskets, and to the rear a unit of foot artillery. And finally on the left hand side is Cook's 1st Guards Division. They don't arrive until much later, and that's 2 brigades musket elite musket infantry, and they'll arrive on turn 19. So that there is the Allied reinforcements that will arrive throughout the battle. Okay, so here we have the initial deployment of the French. This is the French 5th Division with Ney and Riel on the battlefield. These are the initial troops that the French have at the start of the battle. And Ney's going to have to decide whether he wants to make a rush for Quatre Bras straight away, or wait for the rest of Riel's corps to arrive relatively slowly onto the battlefield. So let's have a look at the French reinforcements. Okay, here's the French reinforcements for the battle. Going from right to left, the 1st division to arrive is Foy's division. They'll arrive on turn 3, and that's 1 unit of light infantry, combined light infantry, 2 brigades of musket infantry, and a unit of foot artillery. That's Foy's 9th division, that arrives on turn 3. Next along is Pierre's cavalry division, 2 light cavalry and a unit of horse artillery. They arrive on turn 4. Next along is Jerome's larger division of 2
superior light infantry and 2 musket infantry. They'll arrive on turn 7. And finally on the end there, arriving on turn 13 is Kellerman with the 1st lead brigade of his cavalry corps, which he's going to be leading onto the battlefield. The rest of the corps was around but never really got forward before the end of the battle. They'll arrive on turn 13. So that there is the French reinforcements. Initially the French will have superiority, but as the battle progresses, as the Allied reinforcements arrive, they'll start to lose their superiority. Makes for a cracking game. Let's have a look now at the full deployment.
Here you can see the initial troop deployment. The French advancing towards Quatre Bras with their 1st division on the battlefield, Ney and Real on the right there. The French have got their artillery deployed on the left, and their plan is to push straight on up the road, take the strong point of Gironcourt and try and storm into Quatre Bras before the Allies have a chance of getting organised. The Allies have chosen to deploy, that's Prince of Orange in the middle there with his militia brigade of Dutch Belgians, and in front of him he's deployed his artillery with his best troops in Nassau alongside Gironcourt Farm. His 2 strong points are in the centre, Gironcourt, and on the right there Piedmont has been garrisoned. He's only got 2. He could have created a 3rd one by making a detachment from his Nassau, but chose not to, as he's got his light infantry in the woods, so both flanks are fairly well covered, and these covered flanks will slow down any attempt for the French for a speedy flank march. The French can of course go on their extreme left and swing around the left hand side of the woods. That's an option that could be chosen, but I'm not going to do that today. Or they could go up the centre where there's nothing there at the moment, but at some point they will be slowed down by getting within 6 inches of the 2 strong point garrisons. So there's the initial deployment. The French move first, and the French get 2 extra cap points on their 1st dice throw. So let's have a go at game turn 1, starting with the French. So here we go, game turn 1 for the French. They threw a 2. They initially get an extra bonus 2 for the 1st game turn, so they're up for 4. As I said, Ney is going to make a rush for Quatre Bras, and we'll see how that goes. So moving down the road, and I'll move the lights separately. It's 1. The gun's going to fire. Move the light infantry. That actually drops to there. That's 2. Got 2 left. And the problem is that they can't move again because they're within 600 paces of the enemy. So all I can do is I'll move Ney up to there. And that's all I'm going to do for the movement. So over to firing. French artillery are going to fire on the Dutch-Belgian artillery. Dutch-Belgian artillery is not returning fire. They're going to fire at something over here. They're out of range against the French. So the French have a basic factor of 3. Blue dice. Dutch-Belgians start off with a 3. Their militia down to 2. Not firing back down to 1. So it's a bit of a dangerous situation. Dutch-Belgian horse artillery under fire from the French artillery. This is counter battery fire because no units have moved, so they've got to be doubled. Oh, well, the Dutch-Belgians are off to a good start, totally ignoring that fire. So that's the French fire. Dutch-Belgian fire, the only unit that can fire at the moment is their horse artillery. So they're on a 2 and they will fire at the advancing column, which is on a 4. Again, ineffective fire from the Dutch-Belgian artillery. I think they must have been shaken by the French artillery firing on them. So that's the end of the French turn 1. Over to the Prince of Orange, see how he gets on. Okay, Prince of Orange throws his dice, throws a 3. Because he's the Prince of Orange, it's reduced down to 2. So he's got 2 actions. Don't suppose there's an awful lot that he wants to do at the moment. What he will do is he will be proactive, as I usually are, and he will advance his light infantry out of the woods to take off the pressure of the artillery fire on the Dutch-Belgian artillery. That was for 1, and nothing else for the other one. So firing. The Dutch, Belgium and Nassau light infantry will fire on the French light infantry. They're actually out of range for the artillery, so they're going to fire on their nearest target, which is the French. And the French actually are out of arc, so they can't fire back, so the French are defending. So both light infantry on a 3, but in this case the French infantry are only defending. The artillery can fire in support, which it will do, which will reduce that down to 2. Well, 8, 8. There you go. However, the French artillery is now fired, so that just leaves the Dutch-Belgian artillery. Militia artillery will be firing on a 2, firing at the muskets on a 4. No, ineffective again. So far all the firing's been ineffective, and that's the end of the first game turn. Over to game turn 2 and the French. So let's see how Ney and his best mate Real get on this time. Game turn 2 and he throws a 6. So they're really loving it at the moment. All he's going to do is he is within 400 now of Gemcourt, so he could road move and then he doesn't fire, so that's probably what he will do. So he will actually move up again, road movement, straight up there. for 1. He will keep the pressure up and move his light infantry up for another 1. I can't go any further that way, otherwise he'll be into his zone of control. So he's just going to keep going up to there like so. And that's all the movement on game turn 2 for the French. Okay. French firing. This unit is marched down the road, so they can't fire. They can only defend. And this unit here has to fire its nearest target, and its nearest target is either the Nassau or the artillery, because they're both the same distance apart. So they're going to fire on the artillery. So they're firing on the artillery. The artillery is going to fire back, because that's their nearest unit. The Nassau are going to fire on the column, and the garrison are going to fire on the column. But first of all, and these boys actually, again, actually they just clip, they get the back end of that unit, so they will fire on them also. They can fire in support if they wish. So he's going to fire on him, and he's going to fire back, and he's going to fire in support. So the French are on a 3 for being light infantry. The being canistered down to 2. They're firing in support down to 1. The Allied, the Dutch-Belgian artillery are militia, so they start on a 2. They're shooting at light infantry. They're down to 1. So there you go. Them 3 units are firing at each other, and it's a 1-1. Well, it's 4-2. Incredibly, the Dutch Belgians have really cocked up. They threw 2 1s there, so they've been doubled. So that's 2 hits on the Dutch Belgian militia artillery. So basically this artillery now will be best used for supporting fire and to try and keep out the way if it survives. French artillery fire on the lights. Lights obviously just defending. Lights are on a 3. The artillery is on a 3, but firing at lights, they're not within 300, puts them down to a 2. No, nothing. Allied firing. This is the closest unit, so they will do the firing, and they will support against these, which are just defending because they marched along the road. Okay, the strong point has a basic fire factor of 2. And so they start off on a 2. Wrong one. Allies on a 2. And that's our strong point. The French musket unit is on a 4. Nassau firing in support up to a 3. There's no penalty for the French versus the strong point because the French are not firing back. So it's a 3-2 to the French. And the French win that significantly, but obviously not firing back, so no damage. So that's the end of the French turn. Over now to the Allies' turn. So Prince of Orange, let's see how you're going to get on. Turn 2. No reinforcements yet. Ooh, very good. so he can do more than he needs to. So what he's going to do is, first of all, he'll pull the gun back, get it out of the way over there, so it's out, it's in the lee of the hill from the French artillery, and it can fire in support, and it's too far away to be shot at the moment. And what it will also do now is he'll do that, making sure he's 300 away, which he is. Just back a little bit further, and he will get a flank shot on there in support, but actually if he comes closer, he will be the controlling unit, so he'll get a flank shot on there. Right, that's the end of the movement for Silly Billy. Dutch-Belgian firing. So the lights will fire on the lights, and they're just defending because they're out of arc. So they're on a 3. There, the Allies' lights are on a 3. However, the Allies are firing into the flank, so they get a +1. So the Dutch-Belgian Nassau combined light infantry are on a 4. The French light infantry just defending are on a 3. French win. So I'm afraid the Nassau and Dutch-Belgian light infantry's fire was ineffective. He could have fired in support, but he's going to choose to fire separately anyway. Here we go again with this one. Same again. Garrison on the 2. French infantry just defending, not firing back because they moved in there down the road on a 3. Six, 5. That's a hit on the advancing column. So these are to fire, and they couldn't fire in support because they can't see 2 points. So they'll have to fire on the light infantry, which they could have done, but they failed to fire in support. I forgot. So they're on a 1 because they're shaken and they're militia, and they're on a 3 and they're just defending. No, not good enough. So the French firing is their light infantry and their artillery. First of all, their artillery firing, it's not a flank shot, unfortunately, not far enough over. So that's a 3. And that's a 3. They get -1 firing at light infantry. Puts them down to a 2. No hits. French artillery is not firing very well at the moment at all. These boys, French light infantry, will fire on the Nassau, who are just defending because they're fired on the French column. So that's 3, 4. 3, 4. Ooh. Not enough, I'm afraid. 6, 6. So that's the end of game turn 2. Okay, game turn 3 for Nay and Real. Throws a 2. Now he needs some good caps to do what he needs to do. But on 2, what he will do for the 2 is he will assault the strong point, for 1, and I think he'll take on the Nassau line for another 1. So that costs 1, and he will advance the line like so for another 1. That's closest unit, so that'll be firing with that in support, but he of course has got that in support. That's his 2. Also on game turn 3 he has Foy's division, who will arrive onto the board, and the scenario stipulates that all arriving units arrive 400 paces on and stop and are in 1 formation. So I will place them down the road. So again, I'm going straight down the centre. Got 400 on, 1 formation. Doesn't mean they all have to be behind each other, but in 1 formation. So again, I will place the artillery on the road there, and light infantry will go on that side this time. So that's the arrival of the reinforcements on game turn 3. That's French movement. Let's do some French firing. So we've got an assault going in there. So for firing, we've got the artillery to fire, and we've got the infantry to fire on them infantry. So that's musket versus musket. So that's 4 each. French are on 4. The Nassau are on a 4. However, got 1 support, French support, so the Nassau are down to a 3. This artillery can't support because it can only fire at that unit. It's got to fire at the initiating unit, which is this one. So the Nassau are on their own. They've got no supports at the moment. So this is it, simple enough. 4 for the French, 3 for the Nassau. That's 6 for the French, 5, so that's a fluff. 1 hit on the Nassau. Good steady troops, the Nassau, in this campaign. French artillery, going to fire on the lights, same as last time. Firing into lights, the French on a 2. Nassau, the Dutch Belgium, Nassau lights on a 3. No, French artillery are not performing at all today. That's all the French firing. So we now have the Dutch Belgium firing, and this time it's going to be, these are the 2 units that need to fire. So he is firing on him with him in support. So he's on a 3, and it's a flank shot. So basic light infantry factor 3 plus 1 for a flank shot. Puts him up to 4. His basic factor is a 3. He's just defending because he's already fired, but he's got a support there, so he's down to a 2. So that's 4, 2. That was a 3. 7, 6. So that's 1 hit on the flank of the light infantry. So the French are getting themselves into a little bit of an awkward situation at the moment. The French artillery needs to be a bit more effective. That is basically everybody's fired. So now move on to the combat. Storming the strong point. The rules, it's all in the rule book, but the strong point has a non-adjustable intrinsic factor of 5. And the attackers can only attack with a maximum of 1 unit, but will only suffer a maximum of 1 hit. So the attackers attacking on a 4. Okay, so it's 5, 4, 2. The defenders of the strong point. 5, 4. So that's a draw, and in close combat both take a hit. So that kills the garrison of the strong point. However, because it's a draw, the French take their hit but don't occupy the strong point. So basically what's left have ran out the back of the strong point, the Nassau remaining, and the French infantry are left standing there. But it's not a bad result. They didn't bounce off, so they beat the odds there. So that's the end of the French turn. On turn 3, over to the Allies and to the Prince of Orange, who throws a 4. Prince of Orange goes down to a 3. So he's in a good strong position at the moment, apart from losing the strong point. But fortunately the French haven't moved in, so they're not going to be able to shoot out. So at the moment this unit here can't fire. If they'd been able to occupy it, they would have been firing out and into the flank of the Nassau, but they haven't. But the Nassau's going to have to give ground because the strong point's been taken. So with the action of with 3 actions, they're going to stay where they are because they've got some good flank shooting on there. But these are going to have to move back at least move back 100 paces. So they're going to go that way. So that's them there, which has put them. No, they're still in range, but they're moving away, so they're not going to get flank shot from the strong point. And the horse artillery it'll stay where it is because it's firing in support of these light infantry, so he's in a good position as well. So Silly Billy's holding his ground quite nicely at the moment. So over the other bit of movement is the arrival of the Dutch Belgian cavalry, which I'll just move them over in this corner. They're coming on from the west down the road. So they've moved on to the battlefield. So the Dutch Belgian cavalry have made an appearance. So over to the firing on the Allies turn 3. So Nassau firing at their closest target, which is them. Okay, the Nassau don't have any support, but the French muskets do from the light infantry. So let's have a look at that then. So French muskets on a 4. Put that there so you can see it. Nassau on a 4, 1 support down to a 3. So that's the firing there. And let's look at that. And I'm afraid it's a 5-5. So the French win. That's another hit on the Nassau. Taking a bit of a kicking at the moment. It's just still holding on. And over to the next one, which is the Dutch Belgian firing on the flank of the lights with the artillery in support. Lights on a 3 up to 4 for a flank shot. And they're on a 3 down to a 2 for the Dutch Belgian artillery support, However, this time I'm going to fire the French artillery in support of the light infantry. So they're going to fire on them in support. So that's down from a 4 back down to a 3. So they got a bonus for firing on the flank of the light infantry, but they've lost it because the French artillery are firing at them. They're just defending because they've already fired over there, and they're being fired on with the support from the artillery. That puts them down to a 2. So it's these two are in combat, and these two, they are both artillery firing in support. 3-2 to the Dutch Belgians. Oh. 8-3, so that's double. Well, they did expose their flank several game turns in a row, a couple of game turns in a row. It's a bit blatant, so they took 2 hits. They are blown away. I'm afraid first blood to the Dutch Belgians and the Prince of Orange. So I'll put my dead light infantryman on the battlefield, and that's the end of turn 3 for the Allies. So turn 4 for the French. Three. Okay. They will garrison the strong point. They've only got 1 hit left. So to garrison the strong point takes that unit off because it takes 1 hit to garrison. That's now garrisoned by the French. And I'll put the French garrison on there so we all know that they're garrisoning it. That costs 1 to move in because they didn't move in, leaves them with 2 left. For that 2 left, they have to maintain the momentum. However, they are in range, so they might just wait where they are. No, they will continue to advance like so. That leaves 1 left, which will move that column down the road, and with the artillery at the back they're going to be able to move 300. So that's moving down there. He can't move with them because bloody generals are in the way, so he'll have to stay there. Reinforcements on turn 4 is Pierre's cavalry division. And again, they move 400 paces onto the battlefield, and they will do a bit of right flanking, I think. So they're going to come on the battlefield. They're going to come on the battlefield right over on the right flank. They're going to try and be a nuisance, I think. So they're going to come on 400. I'll put them there. Okay, that's game turn 4. Movement for the French. French firing. He is going to fire on him, and he will have the support of the garrison. He's the closest, so he's the controlling unit. He's going to have to fire on them again. the Dutch-Belgian light infantry can still fire in support, which they will do. And unfortunately, these boys cannot now fire in support because they can't see 2 points of this unit. The Nassau are blocking the arc of fire of the Dutch-Belgian artillery. So what we've got here is a 4 for the French, 4 for the Nassau. However, the Nassau are shaken down to a 3, and the French have got support fire from the garrison down to a 2. Oh, and they're going to fire in, forgot they're going to fire in support, so that's down to a 3. That is the end of the Nassau. The Allied line is now starting to break up. I'll just find my dead Nassau casualties. Died bravely, held the line. The only other French firing now is this here. It throws up an interesting situation, I'll explain in a minute. This unit of artillery will fire on the lights, and that now is a flank shot. And then moving last time. Definitely a flank shot. The reason you know it's a flank shot is you draw a line across the front of the unit, and the line goes like that. This artillery unit is that side on the flank of the front line of the defending unit. So it's a flank shot, so it's a +1. So they're on a 4, they're on a 3. Over there, -1 firing at lights, so it's back down to a 3. It's 3 hole this time. And it's still an effective fire from the French artillery. But an interesting situation now, the Dutch-Belgian artillery can now fire because the Nassaus have broken ran, revealing the French infantry. Their guns are primed and ready. They can now fire because firing happens when it happens at the time during the battle. The controlling player dictates the sequence, but of course all units can fire if able. So they now fire on there. They're firing on a 2 because there is militia, down to a 1 because they're shaken. So the fire is pretty ineffective. However, they are canistering. So they're down, beg your pardon, they're down to a 3. And they're on a 1. They're down to 3 because they've been canistered. They're down to a 1 because they are militia and shaken. There we go. 5 versus 9. So the fire was ineffective. But you see they did get a chance to fire. That's the end of the French movement on turn 4. So it's over to the Allies. Just a quick pan out to see how the battle is going from a bit of a distance. If you can see on the flank there, that's Pierre's cavalry trying to scout round, and on the opposite flank the appearance of the Dutch-Belgian cavalry. Just a quick walk around battlefield. Just developing now. Okay, the battle is now developing. Prince of Orange can see Picton's division arriving. This is Picton's division, they're just marching on. And also, if you notice, Duke of Wellington has now arrived on the battlefield, and in the next game turn he'll take command. So Prince of Orange is pretty relieved. He hasn't done a bad job. He's got his cavalry coming up, and he'll probably take personal command of the cavalry once Wellington takes over. So this is the last cap throw for the Prince of Orange. Let's see how he gets on. Not disastrous. He hasn't done bad. He's consistently been steady with his command and his cap throws. So he's done very well as the Prince of Orange actually. His throws are 2. Throws a 3 down to a 2. So what's he going to do? He will move his cavalry. What's he going to do with his cavalry? I don't know. And he will drop his artillery back a little bit further, maybe. I'll leave him there at the moment and move his cavalry twice. He'll probably do that. So he will move his cavalry twice, and his cavalry will move twice down the road. That'll be 800, or maximum 300 through the town, so that'll be 700. So the cavalry have moved into the town at the moment. Is that where they want to be? Yeah, they may have to go off to the left flank and try and be a nuisance there. So the cavalry have moved into the town, past the Prince of Orange, and that's Prince of Orange's 2. These have moved on, so down to the firing. The only firing for Prince of Orange is his artillery. Again, his artillery fires on a 1, and he's firing at the French infantry on a 4. That's not bad firing actually. 6, 5. Well done, the Dutch Belgian artillery. They have caused a hit on the French infantry, which has stood there, serves them right, facing the artillery. French firing. The French have only got their artillery on the hill. They will again fire on the light infantry. The light infantry should have fired in support, but they didn't, so they'll have to fire separately. So they're going to fire on them, and the artillery are going to fire separately. So the French light infantry are on, sorry, the Allied light infantry are on a 3. +1 firing into the flank, puts them on a 4. And there on a 4. French win convincingly. So the only other firing is the French artillery. As we know from last time, it's 3-3. And believe it or not, that's 7-5. That's another hit from the French artillery. They've now clearly found the range and are firing very effectively. The Dutch, Belgian, Nassau light infantry are going to have to get out of there. So that's the end of game turn 5. We're now going to go over to the French for game turn 6. Yeah, the battle lasts up to 25 game turns, which is quite a long battle. But the fight went on till quite late in the evening. Victory conditions: the French win if they hold Quatre Bras by the end of turn 18, or destroy 9 Allied units. The Allies, to claim victory, they must hold Quatre Bras and destroy 7 French units. Okay, Allied game turn 6. This time Wellington is in command, so I get +1. Wellington gets +1 to his dice throw. So he throws a 5. Good start, Wellington, up to a 6. Okay. Well, Picton has one intrinsic cap, which will keep marching, which will take him up to the back of, in fact, moving at the speed of the slowest, he'll go 300. So artillery, so that's his one intrinsic. Wellington needs to get on the scene, so he's going to move at least twice at this point, so he's going to move 800. So he's now in command and control of Picton, who's the only real troops he's got, and he's going to need to swing Picton to the to go straight through Quatre Bras, I think. So Prince of Orange first of all will take his cavalry out through the town, and you get one extra cap from Wellington. He's going to move down the road. So that's 3 that Wellington's used. So he's got 3 left. It will cost him 2 to move this artillery, but he will, and move the artillery back to there. So that leaves him 1 remaining. So he'll move this column again into the middle of the town. So Picton's column now is in the middle of town. Moving through. So that's the movement for the Allies on turn 6. The only firing the Allies have got is with the horse artillery onto the French infantry over here. So we'll do that. Horse artillery, as we know, militia and shaken is on a 1. French are on a 4. But the Dutch Belgians have managed to hold up the French quite significantly there. And wow, a 5-1. More excellent shooting, which is enough at 6 to 5. It's another hit on the French infantry. So incredibly, the Dutch Belgian artillery has really got the range in, and I've hammered that French infantry. Made a big difference, that. French fire in return. There basically isn't any. This artillery needs to get forward. So that is the end of game turn 6. Okay, game turn 8, Duke of Wellington and his allies. Oh, through a 1. That's not so good. Things are, that's not so good at all. Right, with his 1, now becomes 2. He needs to bring the column down the road, so they can come 400 down the road. They don't want to come within 200 of the strong point, so they're going to form up here, marching down the road. That's for 1. And for his second 1, he will move the artillery. Foot artillery. That's his 2. He does have Prince of Orange, who's going to move backwards. Remember that commanders have no flank, so they can move backwards and forwards, no problem. So I'll move the light cavalry backwards, which is minus 100 paces. So they will swing off that way, like so. And that puts them that position there. They don't want to get into the sunken lane. So they're sitting there, giving ground to the French cavalry until such times as the Brunswickers can get forward. But with only a throw of 1 for your cap dice, you're not going to get anywhere. Again, no firing, so it's over to the French. Let's see how they're going to perform on turn 9. Oh, sorry, this is now turn 9. Four on turn 9. Okay. The cavalry can't reach, but the cavalry intend to claim a charge bonus here. So if you move within 200 paces of an opponent, which they've done, I can keep like that, they declare a charge bonus. Use a little charging cavalryman to reflect that. The staff officer, that means they've claimed a charge bonus, and I'll explain that when it happens. That cost 1, so he's now got 3. He's got to keep that artillery coming forward. That leaves him with 2. Doesn't want to really go across the bridge, so he's going to move sideways here. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. That's his 4. Okay, move these out of the way. That is the French movement with 4. Firing. I think that the French infantry are now within range of the Dutch Belgian artillery, so that'd be worth a shot, I'm sure. And let me move that far over. Yeah. Right, so that is French are on a 4, Dutch Belgium artillery on a 1. No, it's not a chance. That's turn 9. Over to the Allies for turn 9. Again, there's no reinforcements until turn 11 when Alton's division for the Allies turns up. So Duke of Wellington, turn 9, throws a 1. Again, 2 1s in a row. He's obviously got some big staff problems at the moment. So he's got a movement of 2. These boys are a bit of a nuisance because they're militia, so he's going to move them out of the way. So the best he can do is move them back 100 paces, which puts them there for 1. And for the other one, he's going to keep his guns moving forward to there, like so. Bit of a traffic jam building up here now. So that's the rather disappointing one. Duke of Brunswick, he's got one intrinsic cap, so he will keep his troops advancing. And Wellington wants them to swing left, so that's what he will do. Start straight away. That's the Duke of Brunswick, and his troops coming on behind. And Prince of Orange has got one intrinsic cap. However, by declaring a charge, that pins that unit. The cavalry can countercharge, of course, but he can't move away because they've declared the bonus, so they're charging at speed towards him. So he's just going to have to just wait there and suck it up because he's been pinned. So what happens now, before the fire phase, these move into contact. Okay, that's done its job. So firing on turn 9 and the Allied turn 9. The artillery fires on a 1 against the French on a 4. That's the only firing. Oof. 6, 7. So the Dutch Belgian artillery again. Horse artillery shooting really well today. They're going to be in for some battle honours when this is over by their quality of their firing. So that's the end of the firing, but we now have our first, well, not our first combat, but our first cavalry clash here. Quite straightforward. Light cavalry on a factor of 3. That's the French light cavalry. Dutch Belgians are on a 3, -1 for being militia, so they're on a 2. Sadly, the Prince of Orange is more of an hindrance than a bonus, so he doesn't offer anything. So it's 3-2 to the French. First cavalry clash here. And it is a draw. 6-6. And as we know, with a draw, both sides bounce, both sides take a hit. So Dutch Belgian cavalry perform quite well there. So they bounce, they step back. Notice I left enough space there for him to be able to do that because he was at an angle. Takes a hit, and he takes a hit. As per usual, inconclusive cavalry engagement. That's it for the game turn. Back again over to the French for game turn 10. Things are slowly starting to happen again now. Game turn 10 for the French. 5. That's a bit better. He can do something with a 5. His cavalry, let's have a look, see where he's at. His command and control. 1200 paces for all commanders. Can see over there quite easily, so that's still okay. With his 5 actions then, he's going to put that cavalry back in. Crunch for 1. He will less haste will be better for him. He's going to bring the guns up. One. 2. Move these twice. It's 4, he's got 1 left. Be a nuisance with these and move them further into the woods. That's his 5. French firing, well the guns have all moved so the French guns can't fire. Allied gun again will fire again. Dutch Belgian artillery on a 1, French on a 4. Let's see how the artillery provides this time. Whoops. No, comfortable win for the French there. Okay, so we now do this combat. It's exactly the same as last time. 3-2 to the French. Oh, 9-3 to the French. So that's destroyed the Dutch Belgian cavalry. Silly Billy. Well, he's still there. He didn't have anything to do with the fight, so he's just still there. So they will test for breakthrough because they've destroyed their opponent. Anything but a 1 or a 2. A 2. So they're uncontrolled, but they will charge straight into Silly Billy, and poor old Silly Billy's going to have to fight. Silly Billy starts off on a 1, stays on a 1. The French cavalry are on a 3, but they've gone impetuous, so they're down to a 2. So that's 2-1. Let's see what happens to Prince of Orange here. That is 6-4. So he hasn't been doubled, so he's not killed. So he will flee 600. So goes back, turns around and runs off. He can follow up, which he will do, and that's the end of his turn. However, he is blown because he had an impetuous breakthrough. So to show he's blown, we give him a dismounted horse. That means he has to stay stationary for 1 full turn to remove the blown marker, and if he's attacked, he fights as if militia because he went impetuous and lost control. So that's the end of that game turn for old Dutch Belgian cavalry. Been ridden down. Okay, turn 11. Ney's really got slowed and bogged down here, which is pretty historically accurate. But if Ney wants to achieve anything, he's going to have to take personal control and lead his troops, because they're all just getting wasted here. And he throws a 1, so nothing is going to happen. Nothing of any significance. With 1, the best thing he can do actually is advance them through them like that. It's quite a good move, that, for those that want to know about DBN. This unit can't fire this turn because it's moved through the disordered unit, but it's a way of protecting that unit. That's his one. That's all he can do. Firing. So let's have a quick swing around the battlefield. Look at the current situation. Ney and the French are in a very difficult situation. They haven't made the gains in the advance and attack on Mont Saint Jean. It's game turn 13, just about to start, and any advantage that the French had is now slipping away from them. Wellington's now in a strong defensive position, and Quatre Bras, keep saying Mont Saint Jean, I mean Quatre Bras, and as you can see on the right hand corner there, it's Alton's division with the Hanoverian regulars marching on. Brunswickers are in a strong position, although their artillery's just taken a bit of a kick in. The French are going to have to really stick Ney at the front of the column and charge and hopefully break through. It's not all over for the French, but I believe Ney needs some good cap throws, and Ney needs to be charging and leading his troops into taking Quatre Bras before it is totally too late. Okay, this is game turn 14 for the French. I didn't record game turn 13 because the camera stopped, but nothing much has happened. The biggest event was the 95th Rifles came down through the woods and has been fired onto the flank of the artillery. Ney threw a 1 and did nothing, and Alton's 3rd Division has moved up, and the British line has moved to their left to cover this attack by the French. This is their last attempt to do anything. Ney's starting to grasp at straws a little bit now, so he needs a good dice throw on game turn 14, and he gets a 3. That's not really good enough. So over here, the artillery's got plenty of target to fire at. The Brunswickers are advancing towards them. The cavalry could probably manoeuvre over here. We've got some caps to spare. This gun here, it's firing away at this over there, but it really needs to move because it's being fired on in the flank. But that means I'm moving out of action. But I think I either abandon this and it won't get any better and keep moving my attack, or sort this out. I've got to sort that out. So with his 3, he's going to move the artillery 200 paces back, which will put the artillery, back end of the artillery there. Can't fire this turn, but it's not being outflanked, and this unit here needs to don't know, just going to have to stand and take the firing, and I really need to move that artillery, but as soon as I move this artillery they're going to shoot at me and probably blow me away, so I'm going to have to leave that there. Leaves me with 2 actions. My 2 actions, I will move these 2 columns. It's the light infantry, moving for 1. So sadly that's all Ney can do this game turn. To make this work, Ney has to keep his command simple, and I think I made the mistake of going too wide and breaking up my units. I should have tried to keep more concentrated because of the command control restrictions that are on Nay and Reel. So that's the movement. Let's do a little bit of firing. French firing. Over here, the firing, they can't reach each other because of the cornfield. This artillery can't fire. This one can, and this one can. So I'll fire that one again. Again, he's having to fire across the bridge, which is a pain because it blocks his line of sight and classes as firing at these targets as if they're in cover. But I haven't got much choice, so I will fire on his artillery. Does he choose to fire back? He doesn't, because he's feeling confident he's firing at him over the cover. So he's going to fire on a 3, -2 for firing over into cover. So the French are on a 1. He's not firing back, so the British artillery goes from a 3 down to a 2. So let's see. Well, the British artillery won very significantly. If the British artillery had fired back, they would have caused 2 hits on the French artillery, but they chose not to fire back. So that's the fact French artillery fired. The other one here, they will fire on the easiest target, which is the cavalry. So the Dutch-Belgian cavalry will be on a 2 because they are militia-like cavalry, and the French artillery is on a 3. So there you go. Let's have a look at that then. 6-6. Dutch Brunswicker cavalry are standing firm there under the fire. So that's the French firing. It's now the British Allies returning fire. These 95th Rifles have to fire at their closest target, which is this boy here. Sorry, it's not that. These cannot fire in support because they're in the way. So he is firing on him. They are elite Jaegers, so they're going to fire on a 3. The French artillery has a basic factor of 3, but because they're moved, they are not firing back, so they're down to a 2. But they're no longer being fired in the flank, which is a slight benefit. 7-5, that's another hit on the artillery. Light infantry and Jaegers are lethal when they get close to artillery, as you can see from that. The British artillery will fire on them infantry. That's a 3-3, so I'll just throw 2 dice. 5-5, so nothing happens there, and that's it for the British fire. So that's the French, turn 14 over. It's now over to the Duke of Wellington on turn 14. And he throws a 5 up to a 6. So he's doing well, he's Wellington. He's going to give 1 to the Duke of Brunswick. I don't think there's much more. That probably gives 2 to the Duke of Brunswick, so that gives him 3 actions for the Duke of Brunswick. It's not a lot that the British want to do. They will keep this, so they're going to keep moving this infantry sideways, so you can move a full movement sideways. So they basically do that and that. That costs 2 actions, and they will move sideways also. That's 3 actions. So I've got 3 left to give 2 there. So they've got 1 more remaining. If you can see here, Alton's troops have moved up and the lights have moved into the woods. So he will move the lights deep further down the side of the woods. That's Alton's Hanoverian light infantry. Move the Brunswickers. 95th are quite happy standing there. They could have moved further over here to get another flank shot. However, it would cost Wellington 2 actions to move him because he's so far away. So he's actually got 3 movement. The cavalry, a little bit out of range, but they can request a charge bonus to get in and attack the artillery. But militia cavalry attacking artillery from the front is a real tough thing to do. So I will just advance so that the light infantry are within range. So move them out the way. So that's there. So the light infantry are in range, but obviously in canister range as well. And I will move these boys. Oh, the other thing that happened on turn 13 that you missed was, unfortunately, the Brunswick artillery got shot away. So he may well. Brunswick will give +1 in combat because his own Brunswick troops respected him. So he may well charge in with the cavalry and have a go at the artillery. That will make a bit of a difference. And if he gets killed, that will only be a repeat of history. So that's that. That's all the movement. The only other one is the Prince of Orange, who's got his unit of militia infantry. He's got 1 action there, so he'll just fill the gap like so, and they'll probably come down the road. That's the end of the movement, turn 14. So firing. First of all, then starting over here, got the light infantry. They're regular class. They're not militia. They were all competent. It was the advance guard and the lead battalion. So they were all good, sort of some veteran troops. A lot of them are veteran troops. It was the best of the Brunswickers. So they are classed as regular light infantry. On a 3, firing at the French horse artillery on a 3. Horse artillery get -1 for firing at lights. The lights get -1 being canistered. So that's a 2-2. So as you can see, honours even. Oh, big win for the French. That's 8-4. Oh my gosh. Boom. Didn't like that. That's 2 hits on the light infantry. Nasty. So the best Brunswick troops have just taken a bit of a spanking there. Perhaps I shouldn't have been so bold. Moving over here then, no firing over there. The only firing is the British artillery, and they will fire again at this unit of infantry which is shaken. So if French are on a 3, British artillery on a 3, I will fire this artillery in support. So the British artillery goes down to a 2 and the French stay on a 3. See if I can keep that unit alive a bit longer. And I do. So British artillery has been suppressed by the French artillery somewhat. That's it for the French firing. British firing, the only other thing, sorry, the British firing is the 95th Rifles. So they will fire on them again, and again they don't get to fire back because they moved in their last movement. So elite Jaegers on a 3. French foot artillery start on a 3, not firing back, down to a 2, and shaken now down to a 1. So I'm afraid this artillery is looking pretty. All the hits have been caused by the 95th Rifle. So that's a 4, that's a 7, 6. So I'm afraid the 95th Rifles have shot away completely the French artillery. So the French artillery is gone, and it's replaced with a destroyed artillery unit. The French have now lost 5 units of 5 units altogether. If they lose 7, that's the battle over for Ney and the French, and I think Ney will probably get a good telling off by Napoleon after this. He hasn't done very well at all. Okay, so that's the end of turn 14. Over to turn 15. This might be last chance to impress Ney with a 4. Okay, so what he's going to do is the light infantry are going to come through like so. It's 1. 2. 3. 4. Just so you don't get shot in the flank by these. These are on a sticky wicket now, but there you go. Okay, I think it's the last hours for Ney and his attack. I think he's going to have to call it off because he's not getting anywhere. This, you got British infantry in line. When they fire on a 5, so these are not going to want to compete with them in musketry. They want to get in with the bayonet really, but these need to wait for these to come up, otherwise it'll all fail. Firing. French firing, they will again pick on the light infantry. So if you remember from last time, it's a 2-2. However, the light infantry are now shaken, so they're down to a 1. The French on a 2. Oh gosh, look at that, a 6-1. You don't get many 6-1s, but when they do, they should be quite effective. So that's 7-3. So incredibly, what you'd expect, something went terribly wrong. There must have been something blow up in a key officer killed in the battery or something. But that's 2 hits on the French inflicted by the Brunswick Advance Guard and Lead Battalion. Good shooting by the Brunswickers there. Moving swiftly along. The French artillery here is going to choose not to fire because his best effect is firing in defence. So when the British fire, he will fire in support of these boys. Okay, that's the end of the French firing then, so it's over to the British and Allied firing. They've already fired, so it's just the artillery and the 95th. Well, they will fire, these will fire at them first of all. They're just defending because they're out of range and probably out of arc as well. So it's 3-3. And it's a win for the French there, so the French survive that. So now this artillery, who could have fired in support of the 95th but has chosen not to, this artillery is going to fire on them, and now the French artillery is going to fire in support. So the British artillery start off on a basic factor of 3. The French are firing in, French artillery is firing in support, so they're down to a 2. They're on a 4, but they're shaken down to a 3. Well, I think that's it. That's good firing from the British artillery. Eventually, as effect, 5-4. I'm afraid another unit of French infantry had been blown away. As you can see from the battlefield now, that's 6 units of French have been killed. They're just about had it on this battlefield. All the dead, they're Nassau. They were light infantry, and then 4 all there are dead French. And of course another dead French one over there. They were taken out by the 95th as well, so 95th have taken out that infantry that was in the woods, or finished them off. They were already badly shot up, and the artillery. So this is the British and Wellington's turn. So there's a 3 up to a 4. Okay. With 4 actions, what he's going to do, just to show you, he will march forward the British line to within 100 paces. I don't want to go in with the bayonet, I'm going to go in and shoot. So they will do that. That means that they will fire on them and they will fire in support. Because remember, it's 100 paces, so they can't fire through the cornfield too far away. So that's a good move by the British there, and that's quite devastating for the French. So that cost 1. We've got 3 left. I'll bring them up into line as well. That's 2 left. These boys are the last 2. Because of the distance there, it's going to cost 2 to move in. They're going to come out there and have a shot in the flank on the artillery. Absolute nightmare the 95th have been, because the French have got a completely open flank. Me playing as Ney and Reel, I have messed it up a little bit. I've been much better as Wellington than I have been as Ney. And the only other one is Silly Billy marches his infantry forward down the road there, and the Duke of Brunswick will charge the shaken artillery with his light cavalry, and he's going in there. So there we have that. Brunswick cavalry charging the shaken French artillery, with the Duke of Brunswick leading them in the charge, charging in with them. So there we go. Firing, Allied firing first. On there is the firing. So the British infantry, the Highland Brigade there, fire on a 5 because the fire is elites. The French are light infantry, so their basic factor is a 3. The French don't have no supports, sadly, because of the cornfield. However, the British, he's got 1 just in range, so that brings them down to a 2. So that is a 5-2. So you can see how strong a move that was. Oh, look at that. That's an incredible result. So that goes from a fresh French light infantry unit to a shaken light infantry unit. They're not going anywhere. 95th into the flank of the artillery. The artillery is obviously not firing back, and I will fire my artillery in support, the British artillery in support. So there, elite Jaegers, they're on a 3. The French artillery starts off on a 3. They're firing into the flank, so they go up to a 4. And they have 1 support, so he goes down to a 2. So it's 4, 2. 95th firing into the flank of the French artillery. French artillery just defending themselves. 7, 8. Wow. Well, that didn't work out this time. Doesn't always. There you go. Something went wrong somewhere in the planning, or the French were just better than they thought. And that didn't work out, but it worked out nicely there. Any other firing? I don't think there is. Everything that can fire has now fired. Ah, no, I stand corrected. The French artillery here have not yet fired. So they will fire on the British artillery. So the British artillery is not firing back, so the British artillery are on a 2, so not firing back. However, they're having to fire through bad going, through cover, so the French artillery is down to a 1 from 3. So that's 1, 2. Quite close, lots of 1s out there, but not good enough. Right, combat. Combat we've got here is the Brunswick Cavalry with the Duke of Brunswick leading them against the shaken artillery. Now, whatever happens here, somebody will die because the loser is automatically destroyed. Cavalry in combat with losing against artillery are automatically destroyed, and artillery losing in combat are automatically destroyed. So someone's going to die here. So the artillery's basic factor is a 3. However, they're shaken, so they're down to a 2. The Belgian, the Brunswick Cavalry are militia class, like cavalry, so their basic factor is a 2. However, they have the Duke of Brunswick with them, so they're up to a 3. So this is a 3-2. It's not fairly crucial combat. And it's both through a 4, so that's 7-6. So the Brunswick Cavalry win. The only problem here, well, the Brunswick Cavalry win, so they have destroyed the artillery, rode it down. However, the Duke of Brunswick has to test for being a casualty because he's an inspirational leader and he leads from the front. He's a charismatic leader, so he must test. 1 is dead in the action, 2 or 3 is odds to combat for 2 turns, and 4, 5 or 6 everything's fine. So let's throw the dice. Seeing is believing. I've just thrown a 1, so the Brunswick Cavalry was successful. However, the Duke of Brunswick has been killed charging with his hussars. How weird is that? That is just bizarrely weird. Let's see. I do have a dead general somewhere. Duke of Brunswick died on the field, leading his cavalry. The cavalry destroyed their opponent, so they test for breakthrough. Anything but a 1 or a 2, or 1, 2 or 3, because anything but a 1 or a 2. Oh, so they go impetuous. That's no great big deal, but they immediately charge into the French light cavalry. The reason I say it's no big deal for the Brunswick cavalry is because when you go impetuous and charge, they become militia class cavalry. Well, they're already militia class cavalry. In other words, going impetuous is not a bad thing for militia and Cossack type cavalry. They don't suffer the penalty because they're not that well formed to begin with. So we go straight into that combat, simple. Brunswickers on a 2, French on a 3. Wow. 5-4. The Brunswickers win that, and the French light cavalry, lancers in this case there, are pushed back, and the Brunswickers, they don't follow up because they have gone impetuous, so they cannot initiate a charge. That just shows that they've been impetuous, so they're in a state of disorder. They cannot initiate any combat until they spend a full turn stationary, but they've done very well. They destroyed the artillery unit. So there's the carnage on the battlefield. The Brunswick cavalry, led by the Duke of Brunswick, charged the artillery. They destroyed the artillery. Unfortunately, the Duke of Brunswick was killed in the charge. The Brunswick cavalry then charged on impetuously, lost control, and charged into the French light cavalry, and again was successful, but they are now stood there blown. So that is the end of turn 14, I think, 15, 14, and the French have now lost 7 units, and therefore their morale has cracked, and the French are going to withdraw from the battlefield. Let me just check. Okay, here we have the final scene, the end of turn 14. I forgot to move these on, but there's Kellerman has come on with his reserve Cuirassier Cavalry Brigade, which will be quite intimidating for the 95th Rifles, who will be obviously very, very vulnerable, and the heavy cavalry will probably, under Kellerman, will swing straight in and crush the 95th, or the 95th will have to get back into the woods. So they can certainly, Kellerman can certainly hold the left flank of the French army with his Cuirassier. But despite that, the French have lost 7 units of infantry, and therefore that's the morale break point, so they are going to turn and retreat from the field. So let's have a walk around the battlefield. I'll do this as slow as I can. There's the glory and the tragedy of the Brunswickers in action. There's a dead Duke of Brunswick there, and the successful Brunswick Hussars and Lancer. Moving around the battlefield then, there's Ney and Riel. Didn't get the tactics right. I didn't get the right tactics right from the French. I think it's fair to say, looking at a big view from the rear of the battlefield. The only sensible thing is to push right the way through the middle with everything, and I think Pierre's cavalry, instead of me sending them round on the right flank, they should have gone through the cornfield, which they did historically. If they'd gone through the cornfield earlier on, it might have been different, or even a left flanker would have been better. Going around the battlefield here, there's your 95th. We had a good job. There was a lot of artillery fire going on there. Eventually, I think you missed that on turn 13, that was the brilliant Dutch-Belgian horse artillery. Put up a real strong fight there. Moving round, Alton's division's just sat there waiting to get into action. The Duke of Wellington had more than enough troops to do the job. Silly Billy, Prince of Orange, did a good job early on. Definitely fought well, and that's what made the difference. If Ney and Riel are going to be successful, they certainly have to have luck going their way early on in the fight. So there you have it, the final scene of my refight of the Battle of Quatre Bras. A historically accurate result. The Allies, led by Wellington, held the day, held the ground after initial pressure. Ney really failed to get his attack properly going. The Nassau and the Dutch Belgians put up a really stiff fight at the beginning, but all in all, it's a really good fun game. I hope you all enjoyed it, and please stay safe. Thank you.